Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your hostess for today's show is Roxanne Berkey.
And good evening. This is Rox Berkey, and we do encourage folks to drop everything and read here at Dear Texas Radio. I am so honored tonight to be able to be talking to Jeff von der Avoort of Squirl. And Jeff, I know I probably did a really bad job on your last name, but Squirl is an amazing application. And so I'm hoping that you'll explain to the audience a little bit about that. So welcome.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me. You did pretty well on my name, so I'm not too worried. Well, Squirl is actually the first location-based book discovery app. So what that means is that we let you discover new books by passing by locations from books, so the settings from books. So you might live in Houston or in Austin, and there's a lot of books that are set around you, but you might not know about them. So with our app, you can discover those and bump into those settings from those books.
And I personally have entered some things into Squirl, and I find that the tools are marvelous from a reader perspective. You can go in on this application and go to, New York and just have a wealth of stories that you bump into. What a novel concept.
And then there's two ways of using it. There's the one that you just described, where you search. So before you go to New York, you might want to find a book that you want to read when you're in New York. So you can search. But the other way to use it is just have it in your pocket and go about your day and really bump into locations from books. So there's really two ways. There's search, what you described first, and then there's discovery. So yeah, it's in my mind a really fun and new way to discover your next read and create relevance for the reader.
And that's really true, and that goes for the readers as well as for the authors. I mean, this tool is amazing. From the reader's perspective, and I want to focus on that on the first segment of our discussion, Jeff. From the reader's perspective, you can go anywhere, not only in the United States, but in the world. It's not
in the world, yeah. It's open. If you go to Australia, if you go to South Africa, I think Tess Gerritsen, you might well know. She has this amazing location in Cape Town on Table Mountain. All these places, and it's so nice, especially when you're there at the moment or you've been there. You just know the way she describes everything. That's for us, it's a very special thing. Just the combination of the real world and that story. So what we're trying to do is create what we call the augmented story layer on top of the world. So we're creating a digital layer on top of the world from books. So every Squirrel location that you bump into kind of becomes a portal into a different world that author has created. And then it's a really special feeling.
It is, and not only does it create a portal for reading, but I find with friends that I have suggested the application to that they find their travel experiences even richer, not only for them, but the entire family.
Exactly, and what you often get is that people find a book after they get back from their trip or their holiday, and they enjoy that, but imagine getting that while you're there. So you're staying at a hotel and you go to the little town a little bit further down the road, and there's a book set there, so you can just get it right there where you are and start reading. So you go back to the hotel in the evening and you start reading about that place where you are, and there's a nice story taking place there. So yeah.
No, and that's really the amazing part. So I think I met with your group almost a year ago, Jeff, and I found it just a fascinating application. So how has it grown over the last year for adoption? From a reader perspective.
Yeah, it's been going great. A lot of people have been catching on. That's what happens, right? We get real fans who tell their friends, who tell their family. So that's been growing pretty well without us having to put too much effort in it. And we've been talking about Texas and Texas authors. They're really, because we're a Texas company, they've been some of our biggest supporters. And we have a bunch of locations in Texas. So the first time someone bumps into it, they're just in love with it. I was at a conference in Korea a couple of weeks ago, and I had an interpreter, and I had to explain to her what the app was so we could have some business meetings. And there was a location pretty close to where we were in Seoul, and she was like, "Oh, wow, yeah, I need to go and check that out." The moment people see it, they get what it is. Sometimes it's hard to explain what it is because it's a new concept, but once they see what it actually does, they get it right away. And there's something what I call the aha effect. That's something from advertising. You know, all of a sudden you just get it, and there's no other explanation needed. It's just so clear, and people are like, aha, why didn't I think about that earlier? That's what that is, and we get that all the time.
Do you? Have you made a lot of changes to the application since you first released it? Because the user interface on it has been remarkable from a year ago.
Yeah, we've been trying to improve it as much as possible and listen to feedback from the authors. And we're a self-funded company, so we don't have big investors that want us to build a lot of different things and get off our route for now. We know what we want to do when we build it. And there's always room for improvement, but I think it's been pretty good. And pretty soon, in a couple of weeks, we'll launch a new version that has even better search functions and discovery functions. So yeah, we just keep on building.
Now that's really nice to know that you guys are continuing to evolve this application. So folks that already have this on their smart devices, does it automatically update like other applications do?
If you have that's just a setting on your phone. So if you have that on, it will automatically update, and if not, you'll get a notification to update it. So, for example, search is going to be a lot better, and those kind of things. So, but there's still a lot to be done. We got a nice roadmap ahead of stuff we want to do. We have some smaller ideas, but also some really big ideas that we want to push out soon.
So for those readers that take advantage of this application, what are some of the short-term small ideas that they can look forward to, Jeff?
Social interaction. So how do you find your friends? How do you share with friends? You can already do that. So you can, for people who haven't used the app yet, you can check into a location, so to a literary location, and you can say, hey, I just had the same. I just went to the same coffee shop as the guy from this book or the character in this book, so you can share that to your Twitter or Facebook. But I think the next step would be to get in contact with your friends on the app, see who of your friends or your family's on there already, share things with them. That's something I personally look forward really well. Also, when you talk about growth, user growth, that's an important step for us. Yeah. But we want to make sure that all the small things work before we get into the social part where you start inviting everyone else. So we've been having great feedback from our users, our current users, and we're using that. And then the next step would be to make the app a little bit more social.
And that's really cool. That's part of, it's kind of on a line between being really social and being very personal. At least that's how I've used the application. It's like, yeah, it's personal for me. It's a great experience, and yet I want to share it with everybody. I want to tell folks, and Twitter certainly, Facebook. What about Instagram? Is that an avenue that you're making it easier for users to share on or plan to?
Yeah, we're doing a whole lot of stuff on Instagram at the moment. Twitter and Instagram are our main channels. So you can just, if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at Squirl Books. So Squirrel is spelled Squirl Books, and we're doing a lot of stuff around locations, trips. Sometimes we have book giveaways, and it's been great. We've been doing a couple of things with big bookstagrammers, like they call it. So Instagrammers who always post around books. So there's Ursula Uriarte, for example. I think she's from Florida, but she travels all around the world. So she did something for us in Scandinavia, where she took photos at some of the locations in both Stockholm, Copenhagen, and Oslo, and that was great. And the feedback we got from people, again, that aha effect, like, wow, I didn't know that app existed. I need to have that on my phone. So, yeah, Instagram is our main channel, actually. It really fits our target group. It really fits what we're doing. And
so that's just enormously in line with where social media is going these days. I mean, Instagram is really so prevalent right now because people like the visual part of it. So,
Exactly.
I think that's really a fun venue for it, to get real life pictures of what authors are describing in stories is, I don't know, a whole new dimension, right? It just takes it.
Exactly, and that's coming back to the way you use the app, right? So there's one way to be at that place and discover a book that way, but the search function is there too. So you can just sit in your couch at home and travel all around the world to these places and see the photos of them. So that's you can do that in the app too. So when people check in and when they are at the location, they can take a photo at that exact moment of themselves standing in front of that bridge in Paris from the story or something like that. So that visual is very important.
No, it is, and I think it just helps the whole realism portion of it. So, Jeff, I want to take a short break and listen to our sponsors, but when we come back, I want to focus a little bit more on the author side, if that's okay. Will you stick around with me?
I will stick around.
Great.
Critics say that Joe Kilgore's A Farmhouse in the Rain has an almost Shakespearean feel and appeals to the human spirit on every level. You can pick up a copy of Joe Kilgore's Farmhouse in the Rain as an ebook or as paperback. You can find it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or at books.txauthors.com. Don't forget to get your copy of Joe Kilgore's A Farmhouse in the Rain.
Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors. Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors.
Are you looking for a book festival in your area? Check out the Book Festival Network, where you can find local Texas book festivals, plus information about the attending authors, their books, and even videos. The website is easy to remember. It's bookfestival.network. Don't forget to spell out network. Again, that's bookfestival.network, your home for Texas book festivals and Texas authors. Read, connect, and discover. We have it all at Wimberley Village Library. We support our community by providing high-quality books in all formats. We have programs for all ages and many services to fill your needs. Check us out online at wimberleylibrary.org.
Bourgeois Media and Consulting, a book publishing consultant where creative inspiration is realized. More at bourgeoismedia.com. EBG 247, where you can find ebooks galore 24 hours, 7 days a week at ebg247.com. Lone Star Book Festival is an exciting book festival to discover indie authors and publishers. To learn more about the award-winning authors, events, and other exciting events happening during the Lone Star Book Festival, please visit our website at lonestarbookfest.com. The third annual short story contest begins March 1st and runs through July 31st. Enter your short story for a chance at prizes and getting published. To learn more about this annual event, please visit our website at txshorts.com. McKinney, Texas's quaint downtown square, rich in history, entices visitors to discover its more than 100 eclectic shops and eateries. With origins dating back to 1848, McKinney is situated just 30 miles north of Dallas and 40 miles south of the Oklahoma border. One of the country's fastest-growing cities, McKinney maintains its authentic small-town atmosphere, which is palpable when exploring the downtown streets, taking a walk on one of the city's many nature trails, or even visiting the city's Croatian-style village. Learn more about what awaits you in this picturesque North Texas city at www.visitmckinney.com or call 888-649-8499. Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your hostess for today's show is Roxanne Berkey.
Good evening, and this is Rox Berkey, and welcome back. I'm having a really fun discussion with Jeff Vander Avoort, who is one of the primary creators, as it were, of Squirl. And so, Jeff, as we go into this particular segment, I want to talk about how the authors benefit from Squirl application and how they get it.
Yeah, of course. Well, in essence, it's a book marketing application, right? So it's easy to have your friends and your family buy your books, but then when you get one or two steps further, it gets really tough. Also, I mean, Twitter, all those channels are very saturated. Everyone is using it. There's a lot of info coming there. So we needed something that creates a lot more serendipity to discovery. And with our app, it doesn't really matter if you wrote 10 bestsellers or you just wrote your first book. And if people bump into the setting, if they pass by a setting from your book, they discover your book. So we want to level that playing field and do that in a very fun and inexpensive way. So it's free for authors to add their own books and locations. So it's really a win-win situation.
And where exactly do authors and readers get this application? I mean, how easy is it? Come on, let's be real honest here.
Yeah, so the app is, you can download the app on the iTunes store. So you just search for Squirl, Squirl, and it will pop up saying Squirrel Discover Book Location. So that's really easy to find. And for authors, they can use our website. So you cannot add locations through the app because we feel that's not a good experience. Because I mean, we're using text, we're using maps, so we feel it's better on a computer to do that. So you can just go to our website, www.squirrel.co. So CO in the end instead of com. That's what the tech companies do these days. So we did that too. And there's a button there for the author tool. So just click on there, you sign up, and after less than a minute, you're good to go. You can add your little profile, add a picture, add your social media links, and then start adding books and locations. So it's actually very straightforward.
And so that's really it. I mean, authors can go in and they can target one or more stories, so that part's easy. And then they can actually find their place geographically in the world that a setting in their book takes place, and they can explain it a little bit, right? Add some depth to it that maybe wasn't even totally in the story other than a reference, right?
Exactly, and sometimes it's a location that was used as inspiration for a fictional place in the book. What's great too, I mean, those create whole different universes. And yeah, you can add whatever you want to the location. So most of our authors add a little bit of background, and then they add the excerpt. And in my mind, I mean, you can leave the excerpt out if you want to. You're free to do whatever you want on that blank page. But the excerpt really creates the connection with your story, of course. So what we often see is a little bit of background and then the excerpt. We've been seeing a lot of different things. People are trying to build some little competition with it, a scavenger hunt. You can tease your book. So maybe your book isn't out yet, but you can tease a little excerpt there, and you can just say, well, check back later and see if the book is out, and then you can just buy it right from there. So it's a blank canvas that you have there, so you can do what you want with it.
So authors today and people in general, readers, gamification is such a big deal. So the scavenger hunt is kind of right up there with gamification. So do you see a lot of that kind of blossoming using your application? Because I prime for it personally.
Yeah, it starts happening. I mean, it always starts with a couple individuals, and then people start seeing that and try it for themselves. Or if you have a mystery novel, for example, you can have a little riddle in it. I mean, there's so many possibilities. But something we didn't expect, for example, was poetry. So we start seeing poetry in there. It's something we didn't think about when we were building it, but it's an open place, and people start using it in their own way, and that's kind of what we wanted with it. And last year, when I was at the Texas Authors Conference in Austin, I heard someone say, one of the authors in my meeting, saying, well, next time I'm going to be a little bit more precise about my location, because this time I wrote in my book Central Park in New York. Next time I'm going to say exactly the same corner, exactly the right corner that I mean. And that just creates this whole different world, and it gets more specific, and it gets more visual, and it just creates a little portal again. So we're letting the author, because I mean, authors are authors because they're creative people. So we think it's a beautiful playground for them to connect their stories to the world and do it in a way that they feel good about, or that they feel fits their book or their stories.
And I think that's a really good point. It expands the creativity that's already part of this particular group of people in authors. So I, as I recall, Jeff, and help me maybe clarify the details, didn't Lone Star Book Festival utilize this application as well?
Yeah, for the scavenger hunt.
Okay.
So there were a bunch of locations around Austin from different books, from different authors. And so the people from Texas Authors, Alan and his team, they created a scavenger hunt with our Squirl locations, and the hunt was in the shape of the state of Texas through Austin.
There you
go. That was great. Like if you looked at the map, it was exactly like the state of Texas almost. So they did a great job.
And we know Texas is awesome from an author's perspective for sure, and from this application perspective. So are there any other up-and-coming festivals that you're planning to do that same kind of scavenger hunt? Are you helping?
We're looking into places where we can do it, or a slightly different version of it. I just got back from Korea, like I mentioned before. That would have been a great place to do it. But I didn't know the city very well myself, and also we don't have that many locations yet. But as you said, Texas is great. So if there's any great festivals coming up, we'll definitely be looking into that. And we've been always having great support from Texas authors and publishers. And like you said, it is a perfect place for it. I just recently read a book called News of the World by Paulette Giles. I don't know if you've heard about that book, but it's a road trip back in the days pretty much from Dallas to San Antonio, and it's just beautiful to go back in time but still know these places. So yeah, definitely.
Now I actually, to be honest with you, Jeff, I had some friends download this application last year after I had learned about it, and they were going to do some traveling in Europe and in England, and they came back raving about it, just raving about it. So this isn't just a one-place kind of thing. And like you say, Seoul is an area that maybe people don't write about as much yet, but certainly is good ground for this application and for authors.
Yeah. Well, what I always say is with our app, the whole world becomes your bookstore, right? Every single corner you turn, you can find a new book. And that's really what it's all about.
So when readers are going through and they're traveling, for example, let's use that particular scenario, and they come across a book, mechanically, how do they get the book? Is it just a simple click and tap and they have it on their device and they can go? Is it that simple?
It's very simple. There's no borders there. You just click on the buy button. Well, you come in through a location. You always come in through a location in that case, because you get a notification on your phone. You click on it. You get to read the part of the book that plays right where you're standing at that point. And if you like that, you just click on the book and you click on the buy button, and then you get the choice if you want to buy it on iBooks, do you want to buy it on Amazon. You click on there, and we take you right to Amazon or iBooks, where you can download it, or where you can order a paper version. So that's up to you. So there's really no barriers. We just get you right there, and you can start reading right away if you download it digitally.
And so user ease, it's all about the simplicity of getting what you need when you want it. So the immediacy that the human spirit has these days is totally answered with this application.
Exactly. And in the future, we actually want to play on that a little bit more. For example, you as an author could have deals for your readers. So let's say you have a book that is set that has the Eiffel Tower as a setting. You could say, well, if you buy the book right here and now, you're standing underneath the Eiffel Tower. If you buy it now, you get 20% off. If you wait till tomorrow and you're back back home, you don't have that 20% anymore. It's right here and now.
Oh,
based on the
right
location.
here, right now.
Exactly, and why not buy it right when you're standing right there, when you're in the middle of the story yourself? It's a good time to buy.
So do we have some age considerations on the application too, so that we keep, the younger generation that's getting more smart device prevalent, that they can kind of, keep a guardrail on there for their kids?
Exactly. It's not built in the app, but we do have like a 16 plus kind of thing going on there. What we do want to do is build a separate one for those kind of kids. So kids' books or young adult novels. But that would be a separate project. So we feel that the branding would be a bit different, the feeling would be a bit different. There might be some extra features or different features than from the adult app. But there's a lot of fun stuff to be done there, definitely.
And it definitely very, very exciting, Jeff. And I hate that we're like almost out of time, but folks can go and download it from iTunes. From the Apple Store and other places from a reader perspective or from an author perspective. Where do they go?
They just go to our website, www.squirl.co. And Squirrel is spelled SQUIRL, and then CO.
Very exciting, and I can't wait to see how you guys are going to evolve and change this application, Jeff. I think it's a phenomenal insight to how readers and authors want to be able to get their links together. It's awesome.
Yeah, and
Jeff.
And together we're really building that digital story layer on top of the world, and we can't do it without the authors or the readers.
There you go. And you actually change with the feedback, and I think that's the best message is give feedback. There's a place on the website to be able to do that. There's places in the application to do that. And, Jeff, you and your team are listening, right?
We are.
So thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us tonight on Dear Texas, and I want to try and do this again after you do your next update on the application.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Dear Texas Radio. To learn more about Dear Texas and its literacy programs, please visit their website at deartexas.info. I'm Alex Anthony.